Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. My name is Sergey and I'm the owner of NinaVova Custom Jewelry. We made custom engagement rings and the wedding bands. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about very exciting stone, the Aquamarine, and the Aquamarine engagement rings in general. We're going to be talking about what it actually is, the Aquamarine, how it's got its name and everything. We're going to be talking a little bit about the history of the stone. We're going to cover the durability completely because it's a very important part since we're choosing the perfect engagement ring over here. We're going to talk about the treatment. You have to know this part to choose the perfect stone as well. We will cover the pricing, and that's one of the important things overall when you're choosing the gemstone. And also we're going to talk about the fakes. You don't want to buy the fake stone, or you don't want to pay the price of the aquamarine for something else. And at the end, I'll share the secret with you of how to choose your perfect stone, although you might see the answer right now on the board. So let's get started. First of all, what it is, the aquamarine. We've talked in the previous video about the Morganite, and we also talked about the emerald. And this is actually the sister stones to the aquamarine. Aquamarine from the beryl family, and if the beryl is just clean without any additional materials by itself, it's completely transparent. But if we add the manganese to the beryl, we're gonna get the Morganite. If we'll add the chromium to the beryl, we're gonna get the emerald. But if we add the iron to the beryl, we're gonna get the aquamarine. What is the... actually, where is the name the aquamarine coming from? It was called by the Pliny the Eldest, the ancient philosopher and the poet in ancient Rome. And I guess he was pretty straightforward guy, and he just called it aqua marina, which means the ocean water basically. And it's actually is the color of the Mediterranean Sea, I would say, because he used to live there. Since we talk about that, let's cover briefly the history because it's very important for the understanding of the aquamarine itself. The aquamarine is well known throughout the history for the past 2000 years or so. It's been around for a long time. It never really went out of fashion. It has its ups and downs, but it was always around. As I mentioned, it was discovered in ancient Rome, and the Roman judges used to wearing it quite a lot. And there was an actually interesting story that they believed that the color of the stone would change depending if the person in front of you telling the truth or not. And since all the processes were outside, and the aquamarine slightly changed its colors outside, so I'm guessing you can say like, oh, the aquamarine changed its color and I believe you are lying or something like that. I mean, just overall, I think it was a pretty cool story. Also, aquamarine was very well known and used in the Rococo era, in Art Deco era, Art Nouveau era as well. Actually, it's one of the favorite stones of Queen Elizabeth, and you can see her necklaces and sets made out of very, very nice aquamarine. I've never seen that quality in person, but from what I can see on the photo, it's just an amazing quality. Eleanor Roosevelt actually used to own 1300 carat aquamarine. It's right now in the Roosevelt Library in New York State. So if you have a chance, check it out. She was actually trying to sell it, but she ended up donating it to the Roosevelt Library. Next, what I want to talk about is the actual durability of the aquamarine. And when we're talking about the durability, we're pretty much talking about the durability of beryls in general. And I just want to point over here, the highlight of this thing is that the beryls are very durable, and out of all the affordable gemstones, I would say it's one of the best choices. It's very stable, so it doesn't affect much by the temperatures or anything like that. It's also very stable to the water or to the ultraviolet or anything like that. So it's a very great choice. Its scratch resistance on Mach scales is stand between 7.5 and 8. And to give you a comparison, the diamond is 9, the sapphire, the diamond is 10, the sapphire is 9, and the aquamarine stands like around 8. So it's very scratch resistant, and you can wear it on a daily basis without worrying it too much. Actually, in terms of the durability, coming back to the history, it was very popular throughout the sea travelers, throughout the pirates and everything like that. They used to wear aquamarines as in necklaces, and they believed that by wearing the piece of the ocean, it will come down the gods who taken care of the ocean, and therefore they're gonna have the nicer ship. So my idea, if these stones survive the ancient ocean trips, it should survive your daily wear as an engagement ring. Kind of an interesting reference over here. What else? Also, you have to know that the aquamarine is very transparent stones in general. They belong to the first group of the gemstone, and they almost always transparent without any inclusion that you can see with the naked eyes. The exception would be the emerald out of barrels. Almost all emeralds has the very noticeable inclusion, but the Morganite and the Aquamarine doesn't. Since we talk about the durability, it would be nice to cover the treatment, and that's a very controversial topic, and you might hear the different opinions. What you need to know as the buyer of the engagement ring, that there is really nothing wrong with the heat-treated stones. There is like 90% of the aquamarines on the market actually heat-treated, and if it's done properly, it doesn't affect the durability of the stone or any other qualities. What I like to see in my stones, I like to see the certificate with the mentioning that this stone was heat treated. What does it say to me? It says that it was heat treated professionally in the lab under control. And if I don't have this kind of certificate and I can see that the actual stone was heat treated, it's just way too nice in terms of the color. I can guess that it was heat treated somewhere at the mine, somewhere in Brazil or somewhere in Sri Lanka, let's say. And these guys, although they know what to do, know what they're doing, they just don't have good enough equipment to heat treat the aquamarine properly. So I would much prefer to see the transparent process of heat treating the aquamarine, and I want to see the mentioning of it in the certificate. You will probably meet unheated stones, but they are in this collector category. They're usually much more expensive, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. What you want to avoid with the treated stone, you want to avoid the radiation treated aquamarines. And you want to avoid it because they often change the color in a year or so back to the normal color, to the like very, very light blue color. Actually, the main point of the treatment is to enhance the color, to make it better in any way, really. To make the color from like very, very light blue to the brighter blue, or to get rid of the yellow inclusions or the greenish inclusions from the aquamarine. After the treatment, let's talk about the pricing, and I put it right over here for a reason, because we can only talk about the pricing when we cover the treatment and durability and everything. First of all, I want to mention that the pricing of the aquamarine is quite stable. As I mentioned, it was around for the past 2,000 years, and the market formed itself naturally. So if you see too good of the deal, then you probably want to avoid it. But in general, the stones goes into three categories. The most affordable one, that's a very light blue aquamarines with the noticeable inclusions, and sometimes they're going to have slightly yellowish inclusions as well. They might have the greenish color in it, and it's absolutely normal. It's just saying that there is a little bit of chromium in this aquamarine, and it's absolutely normal because, again, if you look at the Mediterranean Sea, it's like between the blue and the green, somewhere there. And when you're looking at the stones in this category, you're just not gonna get this nice aquamarine color that you want to have in your engagement ring. I mean, on the photos, it might be the one that you want it to be, because again, you can Photoshop it, you can have the different aquamarine actually in a photo and things like that. Although we always photograph our stones without any filters, without any editing, so you can actually see the color of the stone. But if your budget is right somewhere here, I would highly recommend you to look at the topaz, for example. The difference between the aquamarine and the topaz is pretty significant, about 50% or so. And for this price, you're gonna get nicer topaz. Or you want to look at the lap aquamarine, for example. The next category is a little bit more expensive stones right over here, and these guys are a true blue color, pretty much like this one. I'm kind of wearing this by accident. And over here, you're not going to have any inclusions or anything like that. As I said, it's probably going to be heat-treated stone as well, and there is nothing wrong with that, really. And we personally like to stay somewhere between these two guys. What is the next category? Next category is a very rare aquamarine. They are they usually very bright blue colors, very deep colors. Some of the stones sold as specimens for the collectors, and they are ready to pay this extra price. And we like to stay in terms of the colors like somewhere between these two stones, depending on the budget of our client specifically. What else can affect the price of the aquamarine? The main thing, I would say, the sets of the stones. Let's say you want to get the earrings with the aquamarine or the necklace, and you want your stones to match. So two matching stones would be more expensive than they are separately. Just because it's very hard to find the same tone of the aquamarine. They always would slightly vary. Also, I want to mention that the price would heavily depend on where you actually buying the ring, because the prices, let's say, between the New York City and somewhere in Oklahoma for the same stone would be like dramatically different. And same for the big stores and the small store like ours, the price would be very significant. After we talk about the pricing, it's very important to talk about the fakes or imitations or anything like that, because you don't want to pay the aquamarine price for something that is not actually the aquamarine. And I'm going to be basing here on my personal experience from what I've seen. The very common thing to imitate the aquamarine with is the topaz. The topaz is much more affordable. It's about like half of the price of the aquamarine. It's sort of similar in terms of the color, and you still can see some of the inclusions. So when you're buying the stone from the marketplaces or something like that, sometimes the seller would sell you the topaz instead of the aquamarine, so you have to be very aware over here. The easiest way probably to define one between the other is if you look with a 10 magnifier glass at the aquamarine, you will see like the snowflake inclusions. They are not visible with the naked eyes, but with the magnifier you will see this. In a topaz, you're just not going to see this because it's not a beryl. It's a completely different mineral. Also, you will see the lapstones. The lapstones sometimes can be sold as the natural. And again, it's easy to see the difference because in the lapstones, there is almost always no inclusion. They are completely clear stones. And in the natural stone, there's always going to be some sort of inclusion. If not visible for the naked eyes, they are visible for the magnifier. Also, there's tons of fakes like CZ, cubic zirconia, or glass. That's just the bottom level, I would say. You want to avoid this for sure. The main characteristic for me, how I can see that it's actually fake, the price is just too good to be true. As I mentioned, the Aquamarine has been around for 2000 years or so. The market is very, very stable, and it just doesn't make sense to sell it cheaper than it actually is. To make a parallel here is with the diamond, for example. If someone's selling you the diamond with a 25% off, well, you probably don't want to buy it. Something is wrong with the stone for sure. Like 99% of the time, something is wrong, unless someone from your family is selling it to you or something like that. So after we've talked about all of it, I want to talk about the secret of choosing the right aquamarine. And as with any transparent gemstones, you want your gem to spark, to be brilliant. And the sparks and the brilliance primarily depends on the quality of the cut. The same with the diamond. Then better the cut, then more it sparks. The inclusions doesn't affect the spark, the color doesn't affect the sparks. It's all about the cut itself. And same happening right over here as well. Unfortunately, probably because of the lots of aquamarine cuts where they actually mined, and the best cutters working on the diamonds and the rest working on the other gemstones. So probably because of that reason, there is lots of aquamarine that not cut it properly, and therefore they do not spark. And that's the reason why we prefer to buy the raw gemstones and cut it ourselves. Our cutters can do the work properly and just spend a little bit more time and effort. But in this case, your stone would spark and brilliant properly. What the sparks actually is, and how does the cut affect the sparks? You're probably going to see the picture right over here with the different types of the cuts. And there is your ideal cut, there is your shallow cut, and there is a very deep one. So basically, in a few words, when your sunlight goes to the diamond or to any gemstone, you want it to bounce from the side of the stone and go back through the table of the stone, through the top part of the stone. In the ideal cut, the mathematic model is built in a way that all of the light that goes through to the stone would bounce and go back through the table. And when it goes through the table, it will meet with a new light, and when they meet together, it's naturally create the spark. That's what we call the spark. If the cut is not ideal, let's say it is shallow or it's too tall, well, in this case, the light that goes into the stone would go out from the stone from other side of it, not from the table. Let's say like half of the light would go through the table, and therefore you're gonna have like half of the sparks out of ideal cut. That's why it's very, very important to have the very good cut of the aquamarine. Another actually very common thing, since we bind the aquamarine for its color and we want to have this beautiful blue deep color, the side of the stone is very important because the less material you have, then less pronounced the color of the aquamarine. So usually in the engagement ring we have somewhere between like 2 and 3 carat stones. And with that amount of material, it's very easy to make a mistake and make a too large window of the stone itself. And the window basically is when you look, what does it affect? When you're looking at the stone, the way you wear it, if it's not done properly through the stone, you're going to see your setting and your fingers. You don't want to see that. You want to see the play of light, and you want to see the spark. You don't want the stone to be transparent. Otherwise, we would cut it as a cooper or something like that. You get an idea. So you want to make sure that your stone is cut properly, and if it is, then you're gonna have everything you want. You're gonna have the color, you're gonna have the spark, you're gonna have everything. So I think I covered pretty much everything what you want to know about the aquamarine. So now you can make much better decision with this knowledge than without them. And again, to summarize what you want to have the very transparent process. You want to have the stone with the certificate. And a little point over here, you want to have the legit certificate from the lab, not from the actual store, which saying like, oh, it's we guarantee that's an aquamarine or something like that. You want to have the certificates from the institution that does study gemstones in aquamarine and other gemstones, really. It doesn't have to be the GIA, let's say. The GIA certificates is quite expensive, and it only makes sense to do them for the expensive aquamarines or the diamonds. It can be from any lab, really, but you want to have these documents for sure. And now when we cover everything, the conclusion. Is the aquamarine is good enough for your engagement ring? And I want to say yes, 100%. The aquamarine is absolutely incredible choice if you choosing it right, if you buying it right. As I said, you have to make sure that the history of your stone is pretty transparent, that it was mined properly, that it was heat treated properly, that the price is right, that you're not buying the fake, that you have the proper documentation for it. And with all that combined, you're gonna have absolutely amazing stone that is very stable, very durable, and it's just going to look absolutely incredible indoor and outdoor. I personally highly recommend this stone. It's very, very good, especially under the certain budget and with the right design, with the right combinations, let's say with the diamond or the moissanite or other beautiful gemstones. I actually want to make the ring someday when we mix in all 3 barrels, the Morganite, emerald, and the beryl, and the aquamarine. That would be an incredible engagement ring for sure, and that's a whole lot of history. But I think for now, that's all you need to know about aquamarines. Again, thank you so much for watching, guys. Please subscribe to my channel and like this video. That's very helpful for the YouTube algorithm. And I'll see you next Friday. Thank you so much for watching.